Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video, and today guys we have something really exciting to talk about, which you should have worked out based on the video title, but Imperial Guard won a tournament! How? I mean, that's impossible. The internet says you can't. Guard at the bottom of the bucket, we're terrible. You might as well not even start playing 40k if you're going to get into Imperial Guard. Well, you know what? You're wrong. You're all wrong because Imperial Guard won a tournament. I am so excited to talk about it. To be clear, I didn't win the tournament, okay? Like, I don't want anyone getting the wrong impression. I don't want to take credit for something I didn't do. One of my good friends, Gary, won the event, and him and I actually met each other at London GT last year, which is one of the reasons I love going to tournaments, because I get to meet loads of people, make loads of new friends. He was a follower of the channel and all that jazz, and he is actually a really, really good Imperial Guard player. Like, he does really well in the ITC rankings and all that kind of stuff. Way better than I could ever do and all that. I'm like a social butterfly. I just like trying different things out and experimenting and bringing feedback and all that kind of stuff. But he is a really good tournament player, evidenced by the fact that he won a tournament with Imperial Guard and with a fantastic list. It is pure gold, this list, guys. So strap in, get excited. I'm doing like a tournament overview for a tournament I didn't go to, which is kind of crazy, kind of strange. I've not done this before, but I'm really excited to talk about it. So yeah, let's just strap in, get your paintbrush ready, get your beverage ready, and let's just get on with today's video. So you guys can tell, like, I'm pretty excited to talk about this, I'm not going to lie. But let's just get some facts out first. Like, what was the lay of the land and all that kind of stuff. So, I wasn't at that tournament, so I don't know the exact lay of the land, but Gary sent me over some details. First thing he said, it was only like a small RTT, to be fair, but there were some ranked players, there were some pretty competitive players there, because as is the case with many small one-day events that you find these days, the good players use them as practice for big events. They're where they try this out and they don't mind too much what happens with them. So whilst it may have been a small one-day event, it's still a bloody tournament. B, there were still good players there. And C, you're using Imperial Guard. If you win any tournament with Imperial Guard, it's fantastic and you deserve all the credit you can get. So I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just like, it's still a massive achievement. So that was sort of the lay of the land, and it was a one-day event. As you can see, the guy sent me a couple of pictures along from his first couple of games. The terrain, pretty standard, maybe a little light for some of the like WTC style boards, but there's more than enough terrain here. There's at least a couple of line of sight blocking, obscuring bits in in each deployment zone. There's some nice terrain in the middle of the board as well. You can tell by where the objective placement was that terrain is centered around objectives and all that kind of stuff. So terrain, absolutely fine, and if anything, actually quite nice to look at. You know, this is what you can expect from what I would call standard RTT terrain, standard one-day tournament terrain. This is pretty much what you can expect if you turn up to an event like this. So terrain was fine, competitive level was okay, all that kind of stuff. Next thing, let's talk about the list, because honestly, it looks like a meme list, but when you actually peel back the layers, it's got some pretty crazy teeth on it, okay? So the first part of the list is a Cadian battalion, and in here, the first thing is, it's not a Cadian thing, it's an Inquisitor thing is the first thing on the list, and it's your standard double smite Inquisitor. Auto Malleus, Castigation, has a great time. And this is a nice tool in the toolbox, and I like this. It means that you have ways of operating in every phase of the game. And this guy I've talked about him before, I've got an old video on him. Essentially, he's 60 points, he's Auto Malleus, and you give him the power Castigation, and his job is to cast 2 powers a turn. And he typically will cast Castigation, which typically does D3 mortal wounds, and they just Smite, which is D3 mortal wounds. And so basically, you've got an average of 4 mortal wounds coming out of this guy every single turn, and it's just good. It's just solid, dependable, and a great way to just do some extra damage in an extra phase. And all for the low price of 60 points. So I am a big fan of this, and I'm going to start including them in my list. I took them out after a while because I was facing so many Thousand Suns, but I'm going to start bringing them back. I think it's a good tool to have in the toolbox. So that's the first thing. Then we get into the actual Cadian part of it. So you have a company commander, and he has got the Warlord Trait of Steel Discipline. Now this is really interesting, because Steel Discipline is from the Codex Supplement Cadia in the Tyranid book, Warzone Octarius Rising Tide. You know, we've got Psychic Awakening, which is a Tau book, which has half our stuff in, and we've got Tyranid book with the other half in. Anyway, Steel Discipline is really important, okay? because essentially, whilst you are within 6 inches of the company commander, you can do an action and shoot without the action failing. So it means you can run onto the objective, do a banner or something similar, and then go, well, you know what? I'm still going to shoot you with my 30 conscripts. So it's a really nice thing, and it's an aura. So it affects multiple units. So if you can string out across a couple of objectives and back to this guy, it means you don't have to sacrifice firepower. It means you're always operating in every phase. I quite like Steel Discipline. I haven't really used it much myself yet, but I've always seen the potential. And again, it always comes down to this golden rule. Tools in the toolbox, guys. So we've got an Inquisitor, we've got a company commander, we've then got Creed. I don't need to tell you much about Creed. Creed is fantastic. 3 orders, 12-inch range, all that good stuff. Yeah, Creed is a must-take in many guard lists. Then we get on to the troops. And we've got 3 squads of conscripts, all 30 man, all upgraded to white shields. Mwah! Perfect. I love running big blocks of conscripts, and I think between 60 and 90 is the perfect amount. The one disadvantage of taking 3 squads like this is you are spending 2 CP for 3 squads rather than 1 CP to upgrade 2 squads. You could technically get 4 squads for 2 CP, but I understand why it's been done this way. Like, it's fine. 3 squads, white shields, great. Can't complain about that. Then we've got 3 squads of guardsmen. And each one of these has been given loads of upgrades. So we've got, each one's got a Voxcaster. Each sergeant has got like a plasma pistol and a power sword. And then we've got a grenade launcher in one squad and a mortar in that squad. We've got a plasma gun and a las cannon. We've got a plasma gun and a las cannon as well. And we'll be doing some more videos on infantry squad loadouts. Keep an eye out for that. I'm going to go into a lot of detail about plasma gun versus grenade launcher, las cannon versus mortar. But these loadouts here, these are good loadouts. Okay, these are the 2 best loadouts you can take on your infantry squad. So you're either going go big or go home, or you're going maximum Hammer of the Emperor with as many 6s as you can possibly get. So you've got 120 infantry. You've got, you know, some of them are conscripts, some of them are infantry squads, but overall, that's a nice, solid core infantry. That's the minimum you want to be turning up with. Okay, and he's got that, and he's, you know, 100's the minimum, so he's gone above the minimum by 20, which is perfect. So we've got we've got some good characters there. We've got orders for days. Our infantry can always do what they want to do, and we've got plenty of infantry going around. Then we get on to the elites, and we've got 2 astropaths. Now, astropaths are fantastic, and I will be doing again. I've got a video coming out on astropaths. They're essential for any good competitive list now. 2 astropaths, psychic barrier, night shroud, perfect. You've got plenty of astral divination to go around, and you've got the ability to really defensively buff up a couple of important units, or 1 unit even more so. So really good powers there, really good couple of units there. More tools in the toolbox, guys. We've got a bare bones command squad. Now, some of you might be saying, bare bones command squad, what's up with that? Well, bare bones command squads are fantastic for doing actions like retrieve Nachman data and all that jazz. Okay, they're really, really, really effective units for doing that. And they're dirt cheap. 25 points to get Nachman off. I mean, ask yourself this, would you pay 25 points to get 4 victory points, roughly? You would. You'd do it every single time. You know, they're really, really good bare bones command squads. And I've got another video coming up. I've got videos coming about everything in this list, because there's a reason why. Because this list contains loads of really good competitive elements. Then we get on to a platoon commander, nice and standard, and then we have the Cadian mortar pit. So that platoon commander is going to sit in with the heavy support guys, and there's 3 squads of mortars. That's 9 mortars, and that platoon commander just sits there and goes, "Take aim, take aim, take aim," and he just orders he issues 1 order. It goes to all of them, full rerolls on all your mortars. It's so good, and it's dirt cheap. 175 points. For 9d6 full re-rollable hitting shots. How much Hammer of the Emperor are you getting out of that, guys? Let me tell you, it's a lot. Then, next bit, so that's the first attachment. And then we move on to the second attachment, which is a patrol detachment. And in the patrol, you have a tank commander with gatekeeper. And then we have 2 units of scions. So these scions are not going to get a regimental trait. Everyone else will. They'll get Cadian. But the scions won't, because they've been taken in a guard detachment. Now, the 2 squads of scions are there to go along with the bare bones command squad. They are there to drop in and get retrieve Nachman data. That is their job. Or to get engaged on fronts, or both, or line breaker, whatever you want to do. But they are there to drop in and get some points. And 2 bare bones of Squad of Scions is a fantastic tool to have in your box. Okay, it's really, really good. So we've got a tank commander with Gatekeeper. Can't go wrong with tank commander and Gatekeeper. You just slap shock troops on it every turn and make it an AP -3 battle cannon. It's great. What more do you need? And then we've got, lastly, heavy support. Okay, so we've got heavy support, 2 full payload Manticores. Perfect. You know, just nice, standard. We're not mucking around. 2 full payload Manticores. That's 2 sources of flat damage 3. Gatekeeper, that's another source of flat damage 3. Just, it's all good. It's all gravy, baby. And then we get on to what I think is the best part of the list. And those of you who are looking at the pictures will have gone, what the frig is that flying thing? Is that the guard vehicle or is that his opponent's vehicle? No, no, no. That's the guard vehicle, because the 3rd detachment is a super heavy auxiliary detachment. And in that auxiliary detachment, we have got a marauder destroyer. That's right. We've got a flying super heavy. Some of you may not know that the guard get a flying super heavy. You know what? We get 2 flying super heavies. We might even get more. We get the marauder destroyer and the marauder bomber, and both of them are kind of interesting units. So the marauder destroyer is 350 points, and it comes with marauder nose autocannons, marauder twin assault cannon, and marauder twin heavy bolter. So in terms of its weapons, the marauder nose autocannons are, it's 48-inch range, heavy 12, which is spicy to say the least. Strength 7, AP -1, flat damage 2. You then got the marauder twin assault cannon, which is 24-inch range, heavy 12, strength 6, AP -1, 1 damage. So that's 24 shots. Oh, but it's not done yet. You get marauder twin heavy bolters. 36-inch range, heavy 6, strength 5, AP -1, 2 damage. So this thing is putting out 30 shots a pop. And all of those shots are like, well, the majority of them are strength 6 and strength 7, and then you've got a little bit of strength 5 on top of that. All AP -1, which is a little bit tricky in a world of Armour of Contempt, but when you've got those astropaths, and this is such a big fat model that you can pretty much always be, you know, in range of one of your astropaths, it doesn't really matter. You know, your astropaths or astral divination stuff, and then your AP -1 isn't such a big deal because you're just putting people onto like 3-up saves or whatever. Depends what you face as well, of course. You know, but it's a lot of shots. It's a lot of shots, and this thing is pretty durable as well. So it's you know, toughness 7 with 20 wounds and a 3-up save. Now, it's obviously got an inbuilt -1 to hit as well, but you can also, you know, put another +1 save on it thanks to Psychic Barrier. And you can also, if you want to, put an extra -1 to hit on it. Now obviously the -1s don't stack, but if your opponent has a way of getting +1 to hit and you put another -1 to hit, then it stays at -1. Or you can put obviously Night Shroud on your tank commander with Gatekeeper, whatever you prefer. But yeah, the Marauder Destroyer, I think it is a bit of a meme unit, I'm not going to lie. But I also think it's kind of funny that it's almost... it catches people off guard. And if you're not ready for a flying super heavy, and no one is ready for flying super heavy, if you're trying to shoot this thing down with like bolters and stuff like that, you're going to have a bad time. You're really, really going to struggle. Because most people aren't bringing vehicles anyway, and most people aren't bringing massive, hard-to-hit vehicles with unbelievable amounts of firepower. Now, one other thing to mention is the Marauder Destroyer also comes with heavy bombs. And basically, once per turn, after you've moved, you can drop a heavy bomb on any point on the battlefield, and every unit within of that you've moved over, and every unit within 6 inches of that, on a 4+ takes D3 mortal wounds. And if you get a 6, you get to do D6 mortal wounds. So that's nice. You're just flying around dropping those bombs. Yeah, it's pretty mad. So this thing can just shoot the crap out of people. It's a massive distraction and counter effect. It's difficult to take down, and it can do mortal wounds as well. So it's a really nice, effective little unit. And that's the list. And it's a pretty crazy list, I'm not going to lie. But I think it's effective. Now, why do I think it's effective? Well, you've got infantry, so you can screen, you can take objectives, you can take ground. It's got the ability to do secondaries. You've got scions, you've got command squads, great. It's got firepower. It's got loads of mortars. It's got loads of manticores, and it's got a tank commander. It can operate in pretty much every phase. It's got conscripts can tie things up in combat. Obviously, guard, you can shoot the crap out of people. You can operate in the movement phase and do lots of movement with move. And of course, the psychic phase. You can psychically buff and you can do psychic damage. And it's got a huge, massive distraction kind of effect. But the huge, massive distraction kind of effect isn't an ungodly amount of points. It's 350 points. It's only like taking a middle-sized Bulgrim blob. But this is more likely to do more damage than that Bulgrim blob ever will do. Because it flies around and it shoots the crap out of people. It just generally is just, your opponent can't leave it. Can't leave it alone because it's just going to fly around. Oh, you've got our squad of Marines holding that objective, do you? Here's 30 shots, most of which are damage too. Do you know what I mean? You can't really ignore that. Because that's what a lot of people do. They just have you like certain objectives and just, and then they distract you with all their combat potential and charging stuff. But really what's scoring the points is the little units. Well, this thing just flies around. It doesn't care and it just picks those up. Or it just drops a big bomb on a big castle. If someone is trying to buff up loads around a character, oh, I'll just drop a bomb in there. I'll just drop a bomb every turn in there. I don't care. Just do, I'm going to do loads of mortal wounds to you. It's a really nice unit, and it's not money-wise. It's very expensive, but points-wise, it's not breaking the bank. It's cheaper than any Baneblade you can get out there. Think about that. It's cheaper than any Baneblade. It's got as much firepower. It's more maneuverable. It basically doesn't care about line of sight, because it's so big and it can move so fast. And it's, in many ways, it's more durable. Beyblade might have a few more wounds, but this thing can, it's -1 to hit. So it's pretty big. So I really, really like this list, and I think it's a pretty crazy one. But I think it's crazy enough that it just might work. Well, what do I mean? It just might work. It did work. It won a goddamn tournament. So now that we've looked at Gary's list in quite a lot of detail, which I know a lot of people would want to know what the heck he took to win in the event, let's take a look briefly at what he faced in each round and what the final score was in each round as well. So the first round, Gary ended up facing off against a Ultramarines list, and it's kind of a good Ultramarines list as well. It's got, it's not bad. There was a Librarian in Phobos armor and a Primaris Chaplain. And then Uriel Ventress was in there, which I've never seen him on the battlefield before, but he's quite cheap for what you get. He's only 110 points. He's not bad at all. And then we had some troops, and we had an Assault Intercessor squad, 9 of them, an Infiltrator squad, and an Intercessor squad. And then, so, that's not bad. That's a pretty decent amount of infantry. All of those squads were 10 large. So that is 30 Primaris, which is quite, that's quite hefty. That's 60 wounds. That's not bad at all. And they, some of those, there's a lot of tools that the Ultramarines have got there because they've got choppy, they've got shooty, they've got it in betweeny with the regular intercessors. So that's interesting. And then you've got Blade Guard in the elites. You've got Blade Guard Ancient. You've got Blade Guard Veteran Squad. So what you've got like 5 or 6 Blade Guard unit, 5 or 6 little Blade Guard there. Not bad. And then you've got an Ironclad Dreadnought. I'm a big fan of Ironclad Dreadnoughts because they've got Smokescreen and their Toughness 8 and loads of other bits. And the Dreadnought Chainsword is amazing. Outrider Squad. And then we've got Eliminator Squad, Eradicator Squad, and Hellblaster Squad. So, let's look at that list for a second. Is there anything there, really, that stands out as being able to deal with the Marauder Destroyer? There is only 2 units in that whole army that have got a snowball chance in hell of dealing with it. You've got the Eradicator Squad. True, there's 6 shots there. 6 shots there, but yeah, and then you've got the Hellblaster Squad, where there's 9 Hellblasters in that squad. Okay, but that's it. And those Eradicators are relatively short-ranged, so if you go second, if you're the Imperial Guard player and you go second, the Eradicators probably aren't going to be in range, and the Hellblasters have got a relatively short range as well because they've got the assault, plasma ones, so they're shorter range and all that. So it's okay, but you're probably not going to get to that Heavy Destroyer turn 1, and then either the Marauder Destroyer gets to go next, or the Guard player goes first, at which point you just go, right, I'm going to pick up those Eradicators, I'm going to pick up those Hellblasters, that's all my shooting is going to concentrate on. I'm going to put my Mortars in there, I'm going to put my Full Pillar Manticles in there, I'm going to put Gatekeeper in there, I'm going to put my Marauder Destroyer in there. You pick those 2 squads up, and there is nothing left that can deal with the Marauder Destroyer. Nothing. It then gets free reign, just fly around and just kill people. So it's not a bad Ultramarines list. It's a nice normal Ultramarines list with a but it does lack the ability to deal with an absolute meme unit. And even if he does deal with it, he's going to have to spend a turn or two dealing with this whilst the Manticores are unloading, Gatekeepers unloading, the Mortars are unloading. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. So Gary ended up winning that 97-27. That's a big win, and I'm not surprised. I think his list is much more refined than his opponent's, and I think his list has stuff to deal with his opponent's stuff, and his opponent doesn't have stuff to deal with Gary's army. So then we had the second list, round 2, and this was against Death Guard. And I have said this time and time again. You are going to come across Death Guard. You are going to come across Marines. Okay. So for anyone that thought, Gary's had a fairly easy run here, I wouldn't say so. Armour of Contempt is really good against Guard, and his first 2 games are against 2 Armour of Contempt lists. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty bad. That's tough. Okay. So Death Guard list, we get into this. So he's got a Foul Blightspawn. He's got a Death Guard Demon Prince. All of the gubbins you would expect on both of those. Unholy Deaths, Hand Grenade, Revolting Stench Vats, Malefic Talons, all this kind of stuff. We've got a Lord of Contagion, and we've got a Malignant Plaguecaster. Those are pretty standard characters you're going to find in Death Guard list. Maybe the Demon Prince is a bit out there these days, but they're still really good. Demon Princes are still really, really powerful for what for the points you're paying for them. Then we've got 2 squads of Plague Marines. Both of these look pretty standard, and a squad of Poxwalkers as well. So, that's pretty normal for your starting Death Guard list. And then we get into, like, the main sort of event, which is in the Elite section. We've got a massive squad of Blightlord Terminators. Full squad of Blightlords. You will see a full squad of Blightlords in literally every Death Guard list going forward. They are fantastic. If you're a Death Guard player and you haven't got a full squad of Blightlords, I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. Go and get them. They're that good. Okay? Buy them off eBay, you probably get them cheap, just do it. So that's a really competitive part to this list. It's got all the characters to buff that unit. It's got troops to run around, like spreading sickness and doing other stuff. And it's got a big block of Blightlord Terminators. Backing that up, you've got a Chaos Contempt Dreadnought with twin Volkites. You cannot go wrong with a double Volkite Dread. Even with like points increases and whatnot, double Volkite Dread is fantastic. The only thing I'm surprised is he's only got 1 of them. But normally take 2, but I guess they've fallen out of favour slightly, so 1 is fine. Got a Taliman, again you're going to see that in every Death Guard list. And then we've got a couple of Fetid Bloat Drones. Now, these are okay, and they're not the top tier choice, but I'm not a Death Guard expert. If someone knows differently, let me know. But they are cheap. They're 135 points, and they absolutely mow through infantry. And against Guard, they're really nice. They're just going to go in and just chew up a squad of conscripts, chew up a squad of guardsmen. They're actually quite good into Guard. Then we've got some Mephetic Blight Haulers, which are actually really good. You're going to see a lot of Mephetic Blight Haulers in Death Guard lists these days. And then we've got a Plague Burst Crawler. Now, Plague Burst Crawlers aren't what they once were. And the impression I get from this list is that the opponent is halfway between transitioning. Maybe they've not quite got all the models they want yet, but they've got enough to pull out, like, I would call this a decent semi-competitive list. Again, I could be talking about my arse here. Let me know if I'm wrong. If someone's won like a tournament with this Death Guard list, let me know. But based on my experience fighting them, what you would normally find is you'd find a bit more Terminators and a bit less of stuff like, the Chaos Contempt Dreadnought and like the Plague Burst Crawler. That's kind of what I would expect. But it's a perfectly serviceable list. You can take that list, and the guy obviously must have won 1 game with it because he got through to round 2, and it would have been a winners round 2. So it's a decent list. That it's not a pushover. Neither one of those lists are a pushover. They're both nice, standard, semi-competitive lists that you could find at any RTT. And bear in mind, guys, even if these aren't the most competitive lists, what are they playing against? They're playing into Guard. Guard as a faction is struggling. So these may not be the best lists that these factions can bring, but they're still very much a challenge for any Guard player going into them. And Armour of Contempt for days, mate. Armour of Contempt. But likewise, what do these lists really have to do, have to deal with a big flying super fortress? Like, nothing. That Plague Burst Crawler and the Mephetic Blighthauler and the Contemptor can probably do something. But once they're gone, it's pretty much like, you know, it's smites and bolters at that point, which isn't really ideal. You know, it's not ideal at all. So again, if you can pick out the anti-tank early on, then you're going to have a great time. You know, like if I was to play into this list, first thing that I would do is pick out the Mephetic Blighthauler and the Plague Burst Crawler, because they've got the missile launcher, the multi-melter, and the entropy cannons, and then I'd go for the Contemptor Dreadnought, and that's how that. And after that point, you know, maybe the Fetid Blow Drones and whatnot. But after that point, you're pretty safe. If you get those 3 units in the first 2 turns, you're pretty safe at that point. So, last list. What did Guy face for his last one to win the event? And now this is a proper. I would say this is a proper list. This next one. I should have mentioned that before we move on to round 3. Round 2, Guy won that in 97.36. Not surprised. He's basically maxing out his secondaries every single turn. When you see 97, he's not missed out on 3 points. Those are 3 points he couldn't possibly have got. I'm imagining those are 3 points that he didn't get from Retrieve Nachman data. Something like that. So he's absolutely maxing out points pretty much every round, which is fantastic. So 97.36, another big win. Then we get into the last list, and this is a big one. This is Grey Knights. So 3 armies of Armour of Contempt. So he did not have it easy going into this at all. So Grey Knights, and we've got a Prescient Brethren for the Brotherhood. I'm not sure if that. I don't know much about that one, to be honest. That might be quite a good one. We then got a Brotherhood Chaplain, a Brotherhood Librarian, and a Grandmaster in Nemesis Dreadnought armor. 3 strike squads, a squad of Paladins. Paladins are so good. They're just tough. 3 Interceptor squads and 2 more Nemesis Dreadknights. So what we've got here is 3 Dreadknights, and then we've got 1, 2, 3 strike squads with 5 men in each one. So that's 15. And we've got Interceptor squad with 10, so that's 25. Another Interceptor squad with 5, so that's 30. And then another Interceptor squad, so that's 35. Then you've got the Paladins on top of that, so that's 40. But in terms of wounds, looking like 70 wounds, like 70 to 100 wounds. All Armour of Contempt, all tough. Yeah, this is a real interesting one. But this is a really good list, and I imagine the Brotherhood Librarian is like the Librarian of Doom that like goes in and smashes the crap out of people. This is a tough list, and you know those Nemesis Grandmaster the Dread Knights and Grandmaster Dread Knights are, you know, they've got decent firepower. You know, we're seeing Sire Cannons, Gatling silencers on every single one. You know, it's a lot of firepower, and we're seeing, you know, those Interceptors have all got like heavy bolt, have all got bolters, sorry, but there's no dedicated anti-tank here. There's a lot of smite, and there's a lot of Daka, and obviously Grandmaster Dread Knights can up their weapons, or Dread Knights can up their weapons. Like once one of them can make all the weapons an extra damage, so it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's relying on getting hits, and it's relying on getting wounds against a big flying monstrosity, and obviously it's tough. Like those grenades are going to be hitting on 4s against that thing. They can't really engage it in combat that well. As far as I'm aware, none of these units have proper fly, so they can't really engage in combat. I could be wrong around the Interceptors, but the problem is that they can't really engage with it. Do you know what I mean? Like they can try and shoot it down a bit, but it's tough. So if I was going into this, I would straight away, I'd like, get rid of those Dread Knights, and then the game gets interesting. But this, make no mistake guys, this is a strong list. 3 Dread Knights is strong. That many Interceptors is strong. The Paladins are a bit of a nice choice, to be fair. They're probably the one bit that's a little weaker. Most people just opt for regular Terminators or wouldn't take them at all. But with Armour of Contempt, you cannot go wrong with having some Paladins. Cannot go wrong with it. Those guys on a 2-up save pretty much the whole game. It's tough, you know. So it's a good list, and but it didn't beat the Marauder Destroyer, did it, boys? So the final result for that one was 91.36. Now the pictures in this are for round 1 and round 2. Unfortunately, there's no picture of round 3, but apparently it was basically the same table as round 2. So there you go. So really, really interesting event. Absolutely fantastic result from Gary. Obviously, I don't know exactly what happened turn by turn, but it's really interesting to see what list he took and what he played that list into. So overall, I just want to say, you know, massive morale boost for us Guard players out there. It is possible to win events. And Gary, as a reward for your service, the Commissar is willing to give you an extra cup of recaf ration and 5 whole minutes of leave. So, you know, that's how important your contribution is to the Guard. It's a bigger reward than I've ever received from the Commissar. So there you go. Death is its own, duty is its own reward, Guardsman. Duty is its own reward. Joking aside, Gary, if you're watching this video, and anyone else who's watching the video, just what a fantastic result. You know, really, really fantastic result. You've done the Guard proud there, mate. If anyone else has got any cool tournament results that they've had recently, put it down in the comment section below. You know, let me know. It'd be cool to cover not just events that I go to. I'd love to cover more events that other people have gone to. You know, what has anyone else won an event out there? Let me know. I'll do a video on it. You know, we can talk about it some more. So massive thank you to guys sending the pitch in and all the information, all that kind of stuff. Really, you know, hope he gets some more successes and wins under his belt as well. And of course, I want to say a massive thank you to the channel Patreon supporters. It is thanks to the channel Patreon supporters that I'm able to go to more events. When I go to more events, I get to meet more people like Gary, and I get to make more friends, and I get to share, learn more information. We get to bring these results back to you. This video literally would never have happened without my patrons. I never would have met Gary. I never would have gone to London DT. You can see the impact that you guys are having on the channel. Massive thank you to every single one of you. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, if you want to see me go to more events and cover more stuff like this, sign up to the Patreon. There's a link down in the description below. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.